Hello boys and girls, today we are going to be making some Greek vases. So what we are doing is we are getting this piece of paper here to look at. We're not writing our name on here or anything, we're using this to look at. And you're getting a piece of scrap paper. Write your name on that piece of scrap paper and then flip it over and fold it in half. And now we learned about symmetry. Symmetry is if you cut something in half, it's the same on both sides. These vases, all, or majority of them, not all of them, have symmetry. So what you're going to do, you're only going to draw half of that vase. So pretend that you're only drawing half of it. You're not drawing the whole thing. And the reason is because then when we cut it out, we'll have a whole vase using symmetry. So I'm going to pick one vase that I want to make, and this is going to be my sketch or my figuring out the vase. This isn't going to be my final copy. This is me just figuring out how to do this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're drawing on the folded edge of your paper. If you're not and you're drawing on the side that opens, you're going to have not a full vase. You're going to have two pieces of a vase. So I am going to pick, I think I'm going to draw this vase here, and I'm going to put my paper there so I can see what I'm drawing. So I'm going to draw first the basic shape of the vase. So it comes over, it goes down a little and in, then it goes down a little more, and it comes over. I'm going to go all the way over here, almost all the way over, and then it starts curving in for the bottom of the vase, goes out, and then that's my vase. If I don't want that to be that thick at the bottom, I could always just draw a line over here. Now I also need the handle on there, and it's like a little curly handle, which is going to be a little harder to cut out. So I have my vase drawn on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors now, and I'm going to cut this design out. Take your time, especially if you're at an area where it's a little more tricky to cut. You don't want to be rushing. This is just you figuring out, so it's no big deal if it doesn't work out. And this is just a sloppy copy. Okay, I have it mostly cut out now, but I have a problem. How am I going to cut out that inside part there? Does anybody remember a trick that could be used to cut this inside part out here without cutting it apart? Folding it a little and then making a cut in there, and then you can use that cut that you just made in there to go around and do the rest of your design. Now be careful, if you made your handle really thin, it might rip. So that will tell you for your final copy to maybe make it a little thicker. There we go. Now I have it all cut out, so I'm going to take my scraps and push them off to the side, or I'm going to throw them promptly into the garbage. And watch the magic happen. Now I unfold it, and there is my vase, completely symmetrical. And I only had to draw one side of it, because when I unfolded it, I had the whole thing. Now, this is going to be what I'm going to use for my final copy. So I'm keeping that, and I'm going to grab a thicker sheet of paper for my final. Fold it in half again. And there is a trick, if you don't want to draw it again, or if you drew it nicely and want to trace, you could trace around it to do it again. But I'm just going to draw it again because I didn't like how thin I made that. That was a little hard to cut apart. So I'm going to draw this again. Okay, now I have it drawn my second time, and I'm going to cut it out again. Once again, make sure that you're not drawing it on the flappy sides because you want it to create the whole design when you cut it out. So if you draw it on the flappy side, it's got to create the whole design, but it's going to be in two pieces. Now I have it all cut out. I unfold it, and there is my vase. Next step is to get crayons. I have my crayons, and what we're going to do is we're going to make some scratch art with our vase. So, for us to be able to make something like this, we need to color this in. And to do it, we can't just color in lightly. We need to color in by pressing hard. If we press lightly, we won't be able to do the scratch art effect. It needs to be pressed hard, and it needs to be this waxy feeling for it to work. So I have my name on my copy. I wrote my name on the side that I drew on so that you can't see my writing and I don't have to erase it. And then I'm going to color this in any color that I want. I think I'm going to do an ombre effect with some blues and purples. So this isn't hard enough. You want to press really hard that you see the difference between me pressing lightly and me pressing hard. You can see the difference between the color there. It should have this waxy feeling. So if you feel it and it's not really waxy, then it's not going the right way yet. Now, you want to make sure that you're not pressing so very hard that you bust the crayon. You don't need to press quite that hard. And also, when you're coloring this in, be careful of the spots where you have like candles or such, because sometimes they tear off when we're coloring them in, so you should use your helper hand to hold it down so that it's not ripping. Now this is all colored in. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put away my crayons. I don't need them anymore. But one, I want to make sure that this feels waxy, as I said before. And then you're going to get some black paint. I'll probably have this set up over on the counter. And you're going to get a paintbrush. You are going to cover this whole thing with the black paint. I'm only going to wipe in two directions, back and forth, so I can start covering this all in paint. Don't worry if it gets on the mat. That's what the mat is there for. I'm going to try my best to cover up all of my crayon. It's okay if it's showing a little. I am going to take this over to the drying rack and take my brush over to the sink. Now I'm going to return back to my sloppy copy of my vase that I made, and I'm going to put some designs on here that I'll do on my final copy, but I gotta figure it out on here first. So I'm gonna look at the designs and choose what I want to draw. Now my design is figured out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my painted vase now. Now when you look at this, you might notice there's some areas where the paint is like a little flaky. So what you can do is you can just brush that off. Now I'm going to take the design that I did on here, and I have a scratch stick to scratch into here. So what you're going to do is you're going to press into the design, and it will start appearing the scratch art, the crayon that you colored underneath. You want to make sure you're pressing a little hard. Give it the same pressure as if you were using a pencil. If it's not coming off very well when you're scratching, that means 1, you're not pressing hard enough, or 2, you didn't color hard enough when it came time for you to color it in. You didn't get that waxy feeling, which is why that was very important to make sure that you had before we moved on to painting. I'm going to make my lines a little thicker in some areas just to make my design stand out a little bit more. There we go. I am done with my design now, unless I'd want to do something up here on my handles, which I think I'm just going to leave them the way they are. And now it's time to make a base or something for our vase to stand on. So you are going to get a scrap piece of paper or sketch paper, and you are going to draw a column, and then when we cut this out and glue it down, the vase is going to be sitting on top of this column that you're drawing. So I think I'm going to draw this one right here, This paint is all over. Oh my gosh. There we go. You don't have to draw the bottom part because we're going to do something different. So you just want to worry about the design on the top. So now on this one, you are going to take your time some more. Now I'm going to cut that out. So now we're going to make the column for this. So what you're going to do, you can use a ruler, and you're going to do a fan-like pattern by folding this back and forth, back and forth. So now I have my base started, so I'm just going to go off of that. Now I have it all folded. So what you're going to do is you're going to line this up to this for your column. So I'm going to get a glue stick and figure out how I'm going to place these on my paper. It's okay if it goes off the paper a little bit. We can always trim your column. So I think I'm going to have it like this. So I'm going to trim my column a little shorter. And now as a way to glue it down, I can fold over a little tiny bit here on the edge. So I'm folding over like half of it. And I'm going to do the same to the other side. So I have a little flaps to put my glue on. Now I'm going to put my glue on here. And this will be glued on right next to it. Last but not least, I'm going to glue my Greek vase on there as well. If anything is sticking up when you glue it on, you can always add more glue to reinforce it. Don't want to forget my handles because I don't want that to be an area where it's sticking up. And I'm going to glue this right on here. Now with this, I'm definitely going to need to add some extra glue to reinforce. Once you are completely done with this, make sure your name is on the back. And then fill out a reflection sheet and turn it in. So here's my finished product. Very cool. Have fun, boys and girls.